Being the fastest quarterback you've never seen. I'll be right back. Being the fastest quarterback you've never seen. I'll be right back. There's no quicker way to get into DFS. Play Super Draft today and see for yourself.
We're behind. They're all fired up. What we got to do? First place, our defense has got to go out there and take the ball. And when we get the ball, we got to have 11 people that's going to do their job and try to score every time you get the football. If we do that, we'll be all right. That will be all right.
Happy Monday. Welcome to another edition of Football University with me, Matt Caddell, and we're talking football. Hope y'all had a great weekend. It was a crazy weekend, and we're going to dive right in. And happy holidays. Merry Christmas to all the fans out there. Please, all the students in the student section, get in the comment section. We love your comments. Please hit the like, subscribe button. RTR, Roll Tide Roll. You know we find a way to bring it back to Alabama. But let's get it started here. Let's dive right in and recap the crazy football weekend, which was this past weekend. Can we say this football weekend was absolute bonkers? Can we start with, I think, the craziest weekend so far? Let's start Saturday. Saturday, the Indianapolis Colts were winning, actually beating the Minnesota Vikings. And Minnesota Vikings, everybody has this big thing about the Vikings. Are they frauds? Are they actually a legit contender? And if they would have won, if they beat the Indianapolis Colts, they were going to win the NFC North. So we're Saturday, playing on the Saturday. Colts were up 33-0 at halftime. 33-0, and still lost the game. I mean, poor Matt Ryan. No, we got Falcons fans out there. He was in the Super Bowl when he lost to Brady 28-3, but he was down. He was up 33-0 and still lost. But kudos to the Minnesota Vikings. They came back, and that kind of started the crazy football weekend that we had this weekend. The Vikings were able to come back, crazy plays, crazy stat. Kirk Cousins threw for like 400 yards and 2 touchdowns in the second half alone to come back and win the game. So that was just one part of the crazy weekend. So you get to the next game. But the big game this weekend was the Miami Dolphins at the Buffalo Bills. We all know, bringing it back to Alabama, Tua needed a big bounce back game going up into Buffalo with the snow game. And we knew it was going to be a tough game, and it was a pure dogfight. I thought, although the Miami Dolphins lost, they proved to everybody that they're still one of the top teams in the NFL, and they will be making the push in the playoffs. in that division. I still think they finished second in that division ahead of the Jets and the Patriots. Speaking of the Patriots, we're going to talk about them. Let's get in the comment section. Linda P in the building, Roll Tide. Can't wait for the 31st. Yeah, Bama versus Kansas State, a noon kickoff. I mean, wow, that's a noon kickoff, New Year's Eve. It's going to be interesting. So we will get into the bowl season, college football playoffs, and Merry Christmas to all. But yeah, back to this crazy weekend. We talked about the craziness with the Minnesota Vikings, but the nightcap that Saturday, Tua Tagovailoa. When I say he put on a clinic, he put on an absolute clinic. Him and Josh Allen. The way they moved the ball up and down the field, had their offenses rolling. They renewed the rivalry between the Dolphins and the Bills, and you kind of got like a quarterback rivalry. Josh Allen, Tua Tagovailoa, Miami, Buffalo, polar opposites, cold weather, hot, sunny Miami. That's just a really good rivalry. Kudos to the Dolphins and the Bills. Bills Mafia, stand up. Fins up, Miami, Jalen Waddle, Tua put on an absolute clinic. And one thing I love about the matchup, the Miami Dolphins, how they handled the weather, how they, Mike McDaniel had the T-shirt saying we wanted to be colder, and they did not let the weather affect them. And so that goes to show you really good teams that are going to make good playoffs runs would not let external factors affect them. So let's get to the student section. Shout out to Nick Saban Jr. He says, what are the Titans lacking? Oh, man, the Tennessee Titans. I think the Titans are lacking a lot of stuff. I mean, I think it's time for Ryan Tannehill. I know they got Malik Willis, but I think they're lacking a lot more diversity on the offensive end. I know you have Derrick Henry. You want to run the ball so much, but, man, in order for you to compete with these teams and other teams, they're going to stack 8 in the box. So you have to be able to have an answer offensively outside of Derrick Henry. And, they traded A.J. Brown. They got rid of their GM a couple weeks ago in Douglas. So it's a lot going on. But I think Vrabel, he's going to, look forward and try to change things up and capitalize, having more diversity, creativity on the offensive end for the Tennessee Titans. And this is what we do at Football University. We talk NFL football in general, and we find a way to bring it back Alabama. And we all know, speaking of a crazy weekend, speaking of football, we have the World Cup this Sunday, World Cup final. Messi, pulls it out for Argentina, and everybody's going crazy on the World Cup final. And then you click over, and it's the Cowboys and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the Jaguars are down 17 points, 27-10 to the Dallas Cowboys in the third quarter. And you're like, oh, Cowboys are going to win this game. You might go run some errands or whatever. And then you come back and you see mayhem has ensued in Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence, Doug Peterson, Rashawn Jenkins, those guys found a way to win. And they were able to execute. And I don't know what happened to the Cowboys. I don't know if they stopped running the ball or what. I know Dak Prescott had 2 picks. We'll talk about the quarterback play. But the Cowboys was a disappointment for them to lose that game. But kudos to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like I said, Trevor Lawrence, Zay Jones, Rashawn Jenkins. We'll get into Rashawn Jenkins to bring it back to Alabama. I think NFL teams could use a Brian Branch like a Rashawn Jenkins. Guy had 18 tackles, 2 interceptions, 1 pick six. Guy's kind of a defensive safety mogul, nickel star guy who can do a lot. So kudos to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Duval, as they say down in Jacksonville, but disappointed the Cowboys. But that was a crazy weekend. So we talked about the Bills, but the most craziest ending of the Sunday was the Patriots and the Raiders. I mean, to bring it back to Alabama, we know Coach Saban, Bill Belichick, they have that relationship. They pay attention to the details and every game situation and all this stuff. But as you can see in that game, bad during game management in situational football by the New England Patriots. I mean, an absolute debacle. I mean, the Patriots went up, they were winning the game, 3 minutes left, but the Las Vegas Raiders found a way to come back and win. And yes, it was some controversial calls. We would get into the NFL officiating. Was he in? Was he out on the Keon Cole touchdown? But man, they found a way to score, tie the game up. The New England Patriots get the ball, and they're basically trying to run the clock out, go into overtime. You're obviously tied. So Mac hands the ball off to Ramondre Stevenson. He makes a cut up the field, and he's breaking. Obviously, there's no time on the clock, and then mayhem ensues. Ramondre Stevenson starts getting in the lateral game like they're down, throws it to Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers was running around and says, "Oh, I need to throw it back 20 yards and throw it to Mac Jones," which I don't think is the greatest idea. And he doesn't see Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones picks it off, runs over Mac Jones into the end zone, and wins the game. That is not the best way to manage the end of the game. So to bring it back down, I need Coach Saban to be a better coach than Belichick and make sure his coordinators and his team know how to handle game-like situations and in game. But do not be like the Patriots. Oh my gosh, it was brutal. So let's get into the student section. We shouted out Linda P, Nick Saban Jr., 6-0 Roll Tide Bama family, and happy holidays to you all. Question: do you think Justin Fields will reach his full potential with the Bears? I actually do. I do think Justin Fields will reach his full potential. Speaking of Justin Fields, the Eagles, they played the Eagles yesterday in Chicago, in Windy City, at Soldier Field. And Justin Fields and the Bears, one thing about the NFL, you got to come any given Sunday. You have to be prepared. Don't look over any opponent. I think those are some of the things Jalen Hurts talked about. Jalen had a good game. He did have 2 picks, so we'll discuss that, how that ties into the MVP race. But Justin Fields, to answer your question, I do believe the Bears will reach full potential with Justin Fields because they have an offensive mind. Luke Getsy, who comes from the Aaron Rodgers, Matt LaFleur type of coaching tree, he has a lot of experience in kind of simplify the offense and making it well for Justin Fields. But although Justin Fields lost, the Bears lost, they're going to be a tough out. So you think about the Bears, you think about them maybe getting a Will Anderson, picking up a receiver, maybe like a Hyatt in the 2nd round, really getting some weapons to really help with the Chicago Bears. So let's get into the student section. Stephen Hicks, Roll Tide, Bama Nation, Roll Tide. Let's see. Roll Tide, Linda P. Let's see. The Falcons ran the ball very well yesterday. Yeah, the Falcons did. And, they found ways. I know they started Desmond Ridder, but they found ways to not win the game. I think they were on the way to come back. And, Ridder throws the ball to Drake London across the middle. Drake London makes a great catch. He's running. Then he gets hit and he fumbles the ball. So, speaking of the Falcons, rise up, all the Falcons fans out there. But that division in that South Division it's up for the taking. You don't know who's going to win it. But the funny thing is one of those teams are going to host a playoff game. So is it going to be the Buccaneers? The Buccaneers did not look that great yesterday. Going against the Cincinnati Bengals, and Joe Burrow was burrowing. Talking about a red zone efficiency. This guy, he was just a stone cold killer. They were down 17-3 at halftime, then come back. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, Mixon, Piron, Zach Taylor calling the plays. These guys find ways to be effective, and they come back and win the game. So the Cincinnati Bengals. But to that division, the Buccaneers, I think it's still going to come down to Buccaneers, Falcons, Saints. I still don't think they're going to have a shot just because they don't have that starting. They have Andy Dalton. So I think it comes down to Buccaneers and the Panthers, the fighting Sam Darnolds. So the Falcons, if you can string along a couple wins, you can actually win this division and host the playoffs. So Falcons, that division is all to whoever wants to win that division. Win that division. Let's go to some of the crazy weekend. So we talked about the crazy weekend. This is what we do at the football university. This is for all football heads. Talked about the Vikings, Patriots, Tua, the Dolphins, Tua, Allen, the rivalry renewed. They said, go Bucks. Let's talk about the MVP race. I still think Jalen Hurts is kind of leading, but I think Patrick Mahomes has kind of inched his way up with Jalen. I think Jalen had 2 picks. I know the Chiefs beat the Houston Texans in the overtime win. Walk-off fashion was McKinnon scoring like a 30, 40-yard run. But I do think the MVP race is going to come down to 2 guys, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes. A lot of stuff came out. Micah Parsons saying, oh, is it Jalen Hurts or is it the system? Or, things like that, kind of getting controversial with the whole Cowboys and the Eagles rivalry. But I think those are the top 2 in the MVP race. 3, I think Tua, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow kind of round out the top 5 for me in the MVP race. Let's get to the student section. Student section says, what about the Colts? I think the Colts, high level, I don't think Jeff Saturday is the head coach. I think if Jim Irsay, the owner, yes, please hit that like, subscribe button for Football University. If Jim Irsay, the owner, smart, I would I think you have a decent enough defense. Get some more pieces, get a little younger, get physical up front, offensive, but you got to get an offensive-minded head coach. I would look at an Eric Bieniemy, somebody from the Kansas City Chiefs. You look at the Chiefs, the Colts, I think they have maybe a top 10 pick. I think they can package something and try to go after a Bryce or, maybe a Will Levis or something. Me personally, I'm going after Bryce. I think Bryce is the top quarterback. And after that, I think it's CJ Stroud. Then after that, you might want to say Will Levis. That's it. I think you have to get a new offensive-minded coach and kind of bring like that Andrew Luck type fashion, or get a defensive-minded, get a D'Amico Ryans. He's going to be a hot name for head coaches moving forward. But those are the top 2 coaches who are going to be in my top list as candidates if I'm a GM or NFL owner. D'Amico Ryans, Eric Bieniemy. Let's go. Let's make it happen. Shout out to the student sections. Linda P says, yes, we are true blue fans through thick and thin. RTR. Let's see. Some 6-0 says, Brock Purdy is balling right now. Will he make it as a starter next season? I mean, I can easily see it. That Kyle Shanahan, the San Francisco 49ers, I mean, Brock Purdy, to bring it back to Alabama. Brock Purdy was one time committed to Alabama. Alabama was, I think it was one of those classes, we were finding a quarterback, and we found this kid out of nowhere. And once Alabama starts recruiting a guy, all the schools started recruiting him. And I think he decommitted from Alabama, ended up going to Iowa State with Mike Campbell. So you kind of already knew that Brock Purdy was going to be a decent quarterback, smart guy, very cerebral, but, put him in Kyle Shanahan offense. I think the best stat for a quarterback is availability. And if you look at the San Francisco 49ers, Garoppolo has been injury prone. Trey Lance kind of up and down, inconsistency. And if Brock Purdy can steady the ship and, maybe take these boys to the playoffs, maybe even a Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan's done it with Jimmy Garoppolo. You look at that talent, I can easily see Brock Purdy coming back and being a starter because he is balling. 6-0, he is balling. Let's get to the student section. Linda P says, I believe Bama is ready for this game. The Bama boys are going to roll. Domination is the standard. I agree. I mean, what great news did we hear? Football guys, if you're Alabama fans and, this has not been our best year, but have our leaders, Bryce Young, Will Anderson, say, hey, we're going to come back. We're going to play the game. And if you follow Football University, which I hope Bryson will, if you are, tune in every Monday night, Football University. They made good points that we've kind of discussed in the past. I think Will Anderson, Bryce Young are going to use this game with their leadership to do two things: make a statement, send a message to the college football world, and let them know that we should have been in the playoffs, and put a dominant performance against a tough, old-fashioned Kansas State team that we're going to have to come prepared for. And B, and I think this is where Coach Saban made good points, in order for you to create value for yourself, you need to play. I mean, I'm looking at some of the guys who are opting out, and I'm like, a lot of them got second round grades. And I'm like, listen, this is your time to improve your draft stock, to increase your value going into the combine in the off season, where you can kind of, a lot of these NFL teams are watching college football on Saturday or Sundays, whatever. You play in the bowl game, GM scouts are looking. This is your time to have a big game and separate yourself. And I say all this, and I think Bryce Young will go out there and try to separate himself from a CJ Stroud, from a Will Levis in this draft, and let the NFL world know that I am the number one quarterback offensive weapon in this draft. And he will prove it again against Kansas State. I look for Bryce to have like a 4 touchdown, maybe 5 TD game where we just pour it on him. Maybe comes out second half. We go Milroe Simpson, whatever. I think Will Anderson's going to be dominant as well. Get a couple sacks, tackle for loss, really separate himself and really solidify themselves of being not only top 5 picks, but possibly the top 2 picks in this draft. So great comment, great question. Somebody said, I think the Bama is the standard. Let's go to the student section. What do you think about Stetson Bennett? Stetson Bennett, he is what it is. Guys just, he's an older guy. He is what he's about 25 years old, but, he's undersized and he might not have all these, typical QB attributes, but he finds a way to be effective in that system. At Georgia, he kind of makes the offense roll, and he's a good leader. So I think he'll have a shot in the NFL, but it is what it is. But kudos to Stetson Bennett. He was able to get into the Heisman watch list, be a Heisman finalist. So for him to come from walking on in South Georgia and leading his team to a national championship, having the possibility to lead him again, kudos to that guy. As Alabama fan, it is what it is. But sorry, I'm not going to be biased here on the Football University, but kudos to Stetson Bennett. Let's see. Stephen Hicks says, I think the new guys and the return players would say it's our time to get back to the Bama standard. I agree with you, Stephen Hicks. If you look at this 23 class that's coming in, you look at a Justice Hayes or a Caleb Downs, these guys, and you're hearing their media sound bites, these guys are coming in to kind of reset the standard. And I think this class wants to be that class that kind of goes back to that class with Tua and Jedrick Willis and Devontae and Waddle and all this talent, that they're going to set the standard, bring the standard back, the championship glory at Alabama, and keep Bama dominant. Keep Bama dominant. So let's see. Great comment. Somebody said, Stephen Hicks said, Bryce and Will both show character, what a team leader does. Finish strong, roll down tide. I totally agree. You mean what leadership? I think Will even said it today in his press. He's like, I'll be somewhere training, watching the guys, and the competitive side of me will be like, why am I not out there playing? So, I think it's an opportunity for these guys to go out there with confidence and go out there and separate themselves. Like I said, one last time to let the NFL world know, NFL GMs, you look at the Houston Texans, the Detroit Lions, the Seattle Seahawks, This is their time to put their print on tape and say, listen, I'm that guy. You need to draft me. I am that top defensive end or top quarterback in Bryce's case that you need to be drafting. So I agree. Stephen Hicks and straight. Lori Caddell says, curious how NFL will play out for him. I think Stetson Bennett will have an opportunity. I think he'll get a shot. Maybe he could be like a Colt McCoy type, just backup quarterback. But I do think he'll get an opportunity in the league. Let's say, what are your thoughts on the Lions? Kudos to the line. Great comment. We've been talking about the Lions as one of those teams lately who are very good defensively. They have one of those defenses that can get you to the Super Bowl. And this is what we do at the Football University. We dissect football, and we talk about, we know who the top 5 defenses are. We know who number 1 defense is. It's the DeMeco Ryans-led San Francisco 49ers. The Detroit Lions statistically has a really, really good defense. I mean, they almost beat the Buffalo Bills, beat the Minnesota Vikings, beat the New York Jets. I mean, these guys started 1-6, and Dan Campbell, brother, I got to give my Hulk Hogan impersonation when it comes to Dan Campbell. He has led those guys to 6 straight wins. So the Lions are a team that I think they're in a great place. They have a really good safety. They have a lot of guys that you might not know about. You know about the Aiden Hutchinson, but outside of that, they got some no-name undrafted guys that are just playing lights out. And one good thing I like about the Detroit Lions, they play the best guy. They did a Hard Knocks, and I was watching some of the episodes, and their coaches were like, listen, if you don't do it right, we're not playing you. And I think that that's the culture to bring it back to Alabama. We know Coach Saban likes to show favoritism, and not necessarily favoritism, but a little specialness, seniority to certain guys when there might not be this best player. And I think Alabama has to get back to playing the best players on the field, regardless. If they're going to do it in practice, we need to play the best guys regardless, and we're going to play the guys who get it done. So, like I said, the Bama's got to get back there. Their defense is playing lights out. They got a lot of guys that just put on their bell cow and go out there and make it happen. Let's see. Let's get in the comments. A. Howell says, rumor is that Travis Hunter's options are open. Heard that Georgia was second on the list his last time. He's not sure whether he's going to Colorado, so we will see. Man, I mean, we all know the talent of Travis Hunter, his story, being the number 1 player coming out of Georgia in the country, basically. Florida State was his school. And, he decided to roll with Deion at Jackson State. And, he played at that level in the swag. He played defense, cornerback, and offense. So, when he gets in the game offensively, he's the best player on the field. With him, Shedeur Sanders at quarterback, the scheme that they have at Jackson State. He made lots of plays, and he made lots of plays Saturday in Celebration Bowl. Shout out to North Carolina Central for winning that game in overtime, sending Deion kind of packing his bags with another L. But we'll get off in that later. But Travis Hunter, I mean, for these guys to get in the portal, I know he's probably going to go to Colorado with Prime, but once you get in that portal, it's free agency, man. Schools could be coming out of anywhere, Bama, Georgia, as you mentioned. So you never know what Kirby might do, but he's that talented of enough player that, I mean, I haven't seen a talent like him that plays offensively and defensively. From what I've seen high school-wise, I think comparable to Alabama, bring it back to Alabama, it's more of a Kool-Aid, a guy that can play corner or receiver, more recent guy. I think a Kool-Aid McKinstry is a type talent that Alabama could easily, it's been some drives. I would love to see Kool-Aid get a reverse or, get a little bit more touches. And I think we got to play the blessed players. So shout out to the North Carolina Central Eagles. I know they beat Deion. They sent Deion and Jackson State Tigers packing, and it was an entertaining game. I mean, I was watching it, kind of got my football Saturday going. I wanted to see how Dion was going to interact. Was he going to lead the Jackson State Tigers to a Celebration Bowl victory? They were there the year prior to that and lost to South Carolina State, but they came back this year undefeated and ended up losing. So shouts out to the North Carolina Central Eagles for the victory. Winning overtime, I mean, it was crazy. It was an action-packed game. The NFL commissioner was there. How about that? Did you know his nephew plays for Jackson State? I mean, just blow my mind away. So shout out to the NCC Eagles. Roll Tide and rise up. Roll Tide and rise up. So let's say I gave you my thoughts on Prime's last game. I think Jackson State, kudos to Prime. It's been controversial. I think he's done a lot for HBCUs, bringing a lot of exposure, sponsorships. I think he's done a lot for Jackson State, but I mean, it's part of the coaching carousel. I mean, you look at coaches, what they do, they take leaps, and Colorado came to knocking. So it's going to be interesting. I think he is going to do a great job in Colorado. I think he's going to have more of a direct hit on the Pac-12, really getting some guys and being competitive in the Pac-12, giving a Lincoln Riley, Utah kind of their a little bit more competition in the Pac-12, or Oregon more competition. So let's get into the student section. RTR, Roll Tide and Rise Up. Roll Tide and Rise Up. RTR, great team, great game, both team winners. So we talked about everything at football university. We talked about crazy weekend. I want to talk about something that's I noticed this weekend, just understanding football and watching, getting ready for the playoffs. And, last week I talked about complementary football, teams who have good coordinators who call complementary football, teams who have complete teams, a running game, being able to run the ball, physical up front. You look at the Eagles, all those top teams have that. But I want to talk about something that I think was another part that separates these teams. If you look at the top 4 or 5 teams, one common thing that these top teams really have is they have really good tight ends. As you can notice in the Buffalo Bills-Miami game, Buffalo Bills were able to use Dawson Knox. That was a matchup problem that gave the Dolphins fits. They had everything else covered, but Dawson Knox was able to get open and get some key third downs. So Bills, they have Dawson Knox. The Eagles, I know Dallas Goedert is coming back, but as you notice, the Eagles have kind of taken a step back offensively. They haven't been as effective where they were scoring 35, 40 points because of Dallas Goedert's injury. We have a top tight end that really helps you be more effective offensively. And the Eagles, when Goddard comes back, he's going to be even healthy. But you look at Travis Kelce and the Kansas City Chiefs and Mahomes. I mean, they won their 8th divisional title, 8th straight in a row since Mahomes been there. Eric Bieniemy, Andy Reid. I mean, these guys are able to be effective when game's not working. They're able to hit their tight ends. So tight ends are going to be key for the top teams. You look at the Cowboys. The Cowboys can be a top team, but their tight ends are they're about B or C grades. But you look at the Bills, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Dolphins, some of these teams, the Ravens, Mark Andrews. I mean, the top teams have good tight end play. So we're going to have to make sure that elite teams have really good tight end play. So let's get to the student section. Stephen Hicks says, Matt, what's your score of the Sugar Bowl win by Bama? Listen, my score, and then since we're in the Christmas holiday spirit, and I said my Santa list, what I want the Bama score. I want Bama to put up like 65 points. Like you might think I'm crazy. I want Bama to put up a 60 burger because I want them to be like, man, I want the college football committee and the rest of college football to be like, wow, we should have had Alabama in the 4th spot in the college football playoff. I mean, these guys are rolling. Bryce threw for 5 touchdowns. I mean, Alabama put on an absolute dominating performance against Kansas State. And so I look for like a 65-23 game. 23 is a lot of points for me. But maybe 65-30. I would love something like that. But 30 points is a lot for me. We know Golding, Bill O'Brien. Fingers crossed. But that was my Christmas wish list, Stephen Higgs. Thanks for that question. Yes. Monday night, Football University. Here at the CTS Sports Room, Tuesday, Rolling with the Tide, Wednesday and Thursday this week. Special podcast, 2 shows on Wednesday. The reason they're having 2 shows on Wednesday because we know Wednesday is signing day. I mentioned this 23 class. These guys are hungry, and we're going to – there's been some rumors out there. We're going to get a few more guys, so tune into signing day on Wednesday. That's kind of, as Alabama fans, that's kind of our Christmas almost in the fall, seeing what new talented gifts 4 and 5 stars we have coming rolling with the tide. Rolling with the tide. It's going to let's get to the student section. Yes, shut them down. Yeah, I want Bama to be dominant. I think these guys are going to spend so much time together, and they're going to want to, end it the right way. They're going to make a lot of noise. And so I want them to be dominant versus Kansas State. So let's go. Rams or Packers? Who do you have winning Monday Night Football? I'm going with the Go Pack Go. Aaron Rodgers, Christian Watson. They're playing in Lambeau. I think it's going to be cold, might be snowy in Lambeau tonight. You know how the frozen tundra, as John Madden used to say back in the day, we know how it gets, but I'm going with the Packers tonight. I would say Packers 25, Rams 17, 25-17. Yeah, I give it that. I'm going with the Packers. Go Pack Go. Let's get to the student section. Keep them coming. Who are some of the players you're looking forward to see getting on the field? I want to see Elijah Pritchard. Yeah, I want the team to get healthy. I want everybody to get healthy. And I want to see what these guys look like. I think we're going to see a lot of more young guys. I think Kobe Prentice is going to get a lot of touches. Interesting to see how the special teams is going to look. I think we're going to see a lot more guys, a lot more Kobe Prentice, Isaiah Bond. I think these guys, Kendrick Laws, are going to have increased roles offensively, special teams wise. I want to see some of the defensive guys. I want to see what if Eli Ricks has a big game? Like, what if he goes out there and have 2 picks, 1 pick 6? Does he go to the league? I mean, because Eli Ricks' preseason this season was a top 10 pick. I mean, he was the number 1 corner off the board. What is cool and what kind of game does the secondary have? Does Jordan Battle separate himself? Kind of get back in the first round. Emil Ekiyor, I want to see how he plays. I know a lot of these guys got Senior Bowl invites. I want to see Emil Ekiyor. He can sneak in the first round as a guard. And Byron Young. I think Byron Young is athletic. I think he's got some of the best tape from a pure, straightforward defensive tackle. I mean, look at what we've been able to do the past couple years with Christian Barmore going to the second round. Fidarian Mathis. Byron Young, I think, is kind of that next guy. So I'm interested to see how he is. And, of course, Byron Branch. I love Byron Branch. He's my number 1 safety off the board this year. I think he's a top 15 pick. But we're going to hold off. So those are some of the names I'm looking to see, as well as Elijah Pritchard. I think Saban kind of trimmed the fat with the portal. Maybe got some guys out of there who weren't truly invested in Alabama. And, like I said, I think this team's ready to go out there and make a statement versus Kansas State. Let's see. A-Hal says, I think it's going to be a bloodbath or it will be a close game. Kansas is tough. Like I said earlier, in the NFL, it's any given Sunday. So in college football, that's why you play the game. You play to win the game. Old Harmon Edwards quote. So either way, if Alabama comes out prepared, healthy, rested up, We've got good game plans. Pete Golden's scheming to defend this team. We're physical on defensive end. We're physical up front. On the offensive end, we run the ball and we get creative and effective. And Bryce should be healthy. We should be able to move the ball downfield. It's going to be a good game. So I just hope it's all about preparation. Preparation is key. Is how you make success. How you have success. So great comment. Let's get to the comments. Roll Tide and Rise Up said, if Bama pulls out the #1 recruiting class, do you think it matters if they can't develop those 5 stars? Bama can develop the 5 stars. Bama has shown in the past they developed the 5 stars. And it does matter. I mean, it does matter to put the #1 recruiting class. And I think that's going to just make Coach Saban self-evaluate his staff. And I think he's going to look offensively and defensively at his coordinators. I think he's going to look at coaches that he can bring in that can develop talent. But I think he's got to look at his coordinators first and get in a new OC who can play the best players and utilize all the talent that he has in different schemes, creative ways to, put up a lot of points on opponents. And defensively, I think he's going to bring in like a co-D coordinator, like a Pruitt, or somebody that can really scheme and kind of set that tone for the defense. I think we're losing Charles Kelly to the Colorado Buffaloes, so that can be an opportunity for Pete maybe to move the safeties, bring in a Pruitt, bring in a whoever, and get things rolling. So I think Saban's going to self-evaluate, and I think he's going to do that. I think he's already got his offensive guy. From some things I'm hearing, some things that I'm hoping for, I think he's already got his offensive guy. I think he could easily be a Garrett Riley. I'm high on Tulane's coach. I think he could be a Joe Brady from the Buffalo Bills because he's currently the quarterback's coach. So another name that you might not think about, and I know we don't want to do the NFL route, but if we were to go the NFL route, Cliff Kingsbury. I'm just saying that could be a name that will pop up here shortly in the NFL. That could be another offensive mind. So let me hear what your thoughts are about Cliff Kingsbury. We broke it here first on Football University, but I do think Coach Saban goes the college route, guys with college experience. So I'm high on Tulane's offensive coordinator. I think this guy gets it. Kansas got a good offensive coordinator, and TCU is the #1. Garrett Riley, I mean, this guy gets it. So let's get to the student section. If Bama wins, do you think this will keep Bill and Pete as coordinators? No, I don't think it'll keep Bill and Pete as coordinators. I mean, it's a great win. I think it keeps them on staff, maybe as quarterbacks coach or anything. But I think if anything, Bill O'Brien's going to the New England Patriots to be the offensive coordinator. I think he's more of an NFL guy. I mean, he has college experience. I think Pete probably still stays the defensive coordinator, but I think Coach Saban brings in somebody like a Pruitt or a Schumann, somebody to kind of take on that D coordinator, and you have kind of like a co-D coordinator. Basically, he's the head guy now, and he keeps Pete Golden as a recruiter. Maybe move Pete to the safeties, maybe move Freddie Roach to linebackers, and bring in a defensive line coach. Kind of do it that way. But I think Coach Saban's going to change it up because he knows he's got all the talent, and I think he knows if he gets his coordinators down packed, he's going to be back dominant, and Bama's going to be even more impressive. But I think if Bama wins, it would not keep Bill and Pete as coordinators. I still think Pete might have the coordinator title, but if anything, he'll be a co-D coordinator, and Pruitt's kind of like the other co-D coordinator, whatever. But Saban's going to figure it out. But I do think Saban's going to get rid of Bill. Bill's going to the NFL. Saban's going to get his next offensive coordinator. We'll have a new OC. Stephen Hicks said we stopped that 3-down lineman crap. It would be a long day for K-State. Yeah, I agree. I agree. We do stop that 3-down lineman. I mean, I think they play a lot of guys. They got a lot of hard, blue collar guys. You might not know these guys, but they play the game the way it's supposed to be. Old fashioned, tough, physical. I mean, disciplined. They're in the right spots where they need to be. We might have all the talent in the world, but they play the game the way it's supposed to be. And Alabama's got to get back to being disciplined in the right spots, scheming these guys up, because they're going to be coming in guns a-blazing. So Alabama's going to have to match that intensity and set the tone down there in New Orleans. A noon kickoff, New Year's Eve, noon kickoff, New Year's Eve. So it's going to be interesting. So let's see. Get to the student section. We got a lot of roll tides. Let's see. Roll tides. William Rose. Let's do Brian Johnson. Matt. Have you heard any news on linebacker Kendrick Blacksire? This will be third year at Alabama. I was hoping to see get him on the field. Yes, I mean, you're not the only one. Great comment. Roll tide and rise up. I haven't heard any news about Kendrick Blacksire. Me personally, this is what we do at the football university. I think Alabama has a Micah Parsons on our team, and I think we have actually two of them. I think Alabama has two Micah Parsons. And when I say this, what I mean by Micah Parsons is just a defensive savant, a guy that can play inside linebacker, guy that can play outside and rushing off the edge, guy can just blitz, do whatever. He can stop the run. He does it all. Guys have motors. Kendrick Blackshire is one of those guys. When you look at his high school tape, guy's just a physical specimen. I know he battled injury this past year. He's starting to get healthy, so don't be surprised you see a lot more Kendrick Blackshire moving forward. I think you can pair him with the Deontay Lawson next year. That could be nasty. A Murphy. I think we got a lot of linebackers that you need to find different type of packages to, mix and match. And when you have a Kendrick Blackshire and a Jihad Campbell, who are, to me, are like a Micah Parsons type player, guys that you can just interchangeable. So you can have, we have the cheetah package, but you can have the cheetah package, but you can have a Jihad Campbell at middle linebacker because he's athletic enough, or Blackshire, put them at inside, put Jihad in the middle, move Blackshire on the opposite edge of the Cheetah Campbell, Cheetah package. You can do so much because those two guys are Micah Parsons-esque in my book, because they can play inside linebacker or the outside linebacker, the edge rushing, kind of how like Dante Hightower was. Guy could play middle and rush the edge. You notice he did a lot of edge rushing in the New England Patriots on their Super Bowl run. So that is a great question, but hopefully – we're dealing with Pete. Hopefully Pete can scheme it, or we get a defensive coordinator who looks at our personnel and say, listen, we got to maximize the talent that we have. We got to put these pieces in the right places, use the talents that these guys are doing, and let's scheme these guys up to be successful. So I think it goes back to the coordinators. I think Coach Saban's going to address that, but that's my take on Micah Parsons and Jihad Campbell. I think those two guys are two Micah Parsons-esque type players. Let's get to the student section. Great comment. This is what we do at the football university. We cover everything here on Mondays. Raymond Paludo, O-lineman, decommits from Bama. Do you think Caden Pryor will flip to Alabama from Iowa, and reason why he would flip? I do think, Raymond Paludo, O-lineman, decommitted from Alabama, going to Arizona. I mean, this just sounds like too good to be true. I mean, we get Caden Proctor in, Paludo decommit saying he's going to Arizona. It's like, maybe did they know something? The Alabama coaches know something ahead of time and say, hey, Paludo, maybe you need to go to Arizona or something. I don't know. I don't know the intel, but I do think we do get Caden Proctor. Iowa's had a lot of change. Guys are looking, man, do you want to be an Iowa? I mean, no disrespect. I know he's an Iowa guy. I still think it's still kind of 50-50 if Alabama's able to flip him, but I do think he's going to go to Alabama. He was just in Tuscaloosa this past weekend. I mean, why else are you going to Tuscaloosa if you're going to Iowa? I mean, just not going to visit. You know, obviously you want to be down there and see what it's like and be around the team. So I do think we get Caden Proctor to fill in that void. And I think that will be the missing piece since Polito's going to Arizona. Let's see, Roll Tide and Rolls Rise Up. Let's see, do you think Terrion Arnold needs to move to safety? Yes, I think Terrion Arnold needs to be another Swiss Army knife for our defense. I know we want to use him at corner, and he's super athletic, but he is, you look at his tape, he can play corner, nickel, star, everything. So I think he's best suited. Me personally, I would rotate him in more as a safety. If he's got great elite coverage skills, not at the corner position, he can be even, he has okay coverage skills. Give him pretty good coverage skills at the corner position. But imagine putting him at safety. I mean, you have his athleticism. Then you can drop him in the box. Then you can put him at star with his athleticism, getting to the quarterback, covering slot guys, covering tight ends. I mean, you can do a lot with Terrion Arnold. I think you need to utilize him as a Swiss Army knife, getting him playing star, money, safety, but definitely moving him safety because at the end of the day, if you have depth issues, you can always move him to corner. But I don't think we're going to have depth issues because we're getting – this 23 class, we're getting guys, and this past year's class. You're getting looking at an Earl Little, who that guy is really good. His tape, he's very disciplined, sound guy. We got some guys that are going to make some plays. So, yes, I wouldn't mind Terrion going to safety. Linda P says, Terrion has great potential. If groomed, he could be the next Minka Fitzpatrick. Yes, I agree. That's what I'm saying. We're losing Charles Kelly. Say what you want about the safeties. You can say they digress or whatever. I just think it was a lot of the scheme. I don't think we utilized our guys in the best position for them to be successful. I feel like we were very predictable defensively, doing a lot of man just going out there. So I do think Coach Saban's going to address that, bring in a new code D coordinator or whoever, and somebody to play the safeties. Maybe you look at a Derek Ansley, just names I'm throwing out there. Look, I don't have any inside information, but I think Coach Saban gets some guys that know what they're doing and can play the best schemes and get these guys rolling. Let's see. 60 says, Pete Golden can't groom his hair. You think he would polish groom hair? I doubt it. Oh man, savage pause. Oh my goodness, students, y'all are so funny. You know, I'm always trying to be the positive guy, you know, but I love a good take, and that's a good take. But yeah, I think Saban's going to change some things up, and I think he's going to put Pete where he needs to kind of. I don't think linebackers is his strength. I think maybe safeties or some of my other position, maybe the D-line. I don't know. I think Saban's going to figure it out and, you know, get a coaching coordinator and get his staff to where he can really get those guys schematically playing the best ball and developing them to maximize their potential to play on a consistent basis and get Alabama to be in a domination. Being dominant as what they used to been past this reign of dominance. So let's see. James Knox says, do you see this bowl game being a repeat of Utah? No, I don't see this bowl game being a repeat of Utah because the Utah game back then was before the college football playoff. I think it was the BCS. I think Bama had lost in the SEC championship in 2008 to Florida. And I think that team was undefeated. And I think they were just riding so high emotionally that when they lost to Florida in Tebow in that fashion and how they lost and then going to the consolation prize to New Orleans to play, you know, Utah. And, you know, the guys kind of weren't focused or whatnot. Say what you want, but they were playing a good Utah team, and Utah just put a spanking on Alabama. You know, having that happen in the past, I don't think it's a repeat. I think you got so many guys that, yeah, we're in the Sugar Bowl, but let's make the most of it. Let's make a statement. Let's have one last hurrah, and let's let everybody know why Alabama is the standard. So I don't think we'll have a repeat of Utah. Let's see. 60 says, I get it, Matt, but Pete didn't even have one QB blitz in this formula this season. I mean, he had quarterback blitzes, but my biggest issue with Pete 60 is the blitzes he ran. He runs the same stupid blitz. He will blitz Henry Tototu in the A gap, and it doesn't work. Like it's no creative blitzes. And 60, a lot of times he didn't have to blitz. He will be blitzing quarterbacks that we did not need to blitz. Now, if you're playing Patrick Mahomes or Tua Tagovailoa and they have all time to throw the ball, then yes, you blitz because you want them to get the ball out. But if you're going to blitz, you got to have the players that can get to the quarterback. I'm sorry. Our linebackers, our defense does not get to the quarterback because we play with such high leverage, high pad level. And Pete doesn't scheme up a good blitz. We were blitzing guys that didn't need to blitz. All thing we needed was a QB spy. I think what's most frustrating with Alabama defense is the lack of not having a quarterback spy, i.e. Jaden Daniels versus LSU. The only thing we had to do was put a spy on him. We win the game. But we kept blitzing and not putting the spy and being predictable on defense, and we lose the game. So that's my 2 cents. Nick Saban Jr. says we need Glenn Schumann. Yes, I would love to have Glenn Schumann as like the co-D coordinator, but I don't know. I mean, he started at Alabama, so I don't know if we'll be able to pull that one from Georgia. But if so, I would love it. That would make my day. They have a Garrett Riley as an OC. Like, ooh, talking about Christmas. I would be happy on Christmas Day, but we're going to be grateful and happy because this is a season of joy and enjoying your family. So let's stay in the happy holidays spirit. Let's get to the student section. Okay, so we kind of discussed about everything. We talked about the playoffs. We talked about the tight ends. We talked about offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators. I told you offensively, I like from the NFL, I like Joe Brady. I think Kingsbury would be a good option to bring it back to Alabama. The Eagles quarterbacks, the Eagles offensive coordinator, the Eagles quarterbacks coach, anybody from the Shanahan tree, anybody from the Mike McDaniels tree, offensively will be a good OC. And obviously Eric Bieniemy. I mean, he's the top offensive coordinator in my opinion. And top defensive coordinator, DeMeco Ryans. I mean, Bama guy played with him in Alabama. I mean, he has the number 1 defense. He interviewed for the Minnesota Vikings job last year, but they brought him in for a second interview, but he said, no, I think I need to have another year of being the D coordinator. So that just shows you what type of intellectual thinker, thought-provoking player, person that DeMeco Ryans are. So those are my top 2 OCs and DCs. Let's get to the college bowl football season. So we've already had the bowls, and it's been bowl season, and we've had some interesting games. We know UAB kicked it off in the Bahamas Bowls. I feel like UAB is in the Bahamas Bowls bowl game every year. And UAB won. They won their game. So they were able to win out. The state of Alabama had 3 teams. I think 3 or 4, maybe 4 teams. No, 4 teams in the college football in bowl games. UAB, in the Bahamas Bowls. Troy, shout out to Troy. They beat UTSA, the Roadrunners. I think they finished with like 11 victories and 2 losses. So shout out to the Troy Trojans, all the people down there in Troy. So now it's left to South Alabama and Alabama versus Kansas State. So we got to make sure we go undefeated and keep things rolling for the state of Alabama. But an interesting bowl game. I think we got a bowl game tonight. Marshall versus UConn. Bringing back to Alabama, we know Coach Huff, former Alabama running backs coach, is the head coach at Marshall. Marshall had the big upset versus Notre Dame this past year. So I think Marshall will pull that game out tonight. But let's talk about this college football playoffs. And I was kind of chatting earlier. I've been kind of thinking, and Georgia plays Ohio State, and Michigan plays TCU. And if I'm a Georgia fan, I think Georgia got kind of the short end of the stick when it comes to the playoffs. I mean, because the playoff did not want a rematch of the Ohio State Michigan game in the first round. I still think Georgia got messed up. I still think Georgia should be playing TCU. I still think TCU is a fourth-ranked team, but instead they're playing Ohio State, and I do think Ohio State matches up a lot better than what people expect. I mean, I do think Georgia's the better team. I think they've been rolling. I think Georgia's going to win the game, but that game can be kind of tricky playing Ohio State. Us Alabama fans, we know we've had bad experience with Ohio State back in New Orleans, playing them in the playoffs. So that game could be kind of tricky. CJ Stroud, Marvin Harrison Jr., the running back. I mean, they got pretty good, decent defense. I think they match up pretty well. I think because Georgia does so much running the ball and tight ends that defensively, I think they actually kind of match up better versus Georgia than other teams. And I think the Michigan TCU game is going to be interesting. Michigan, I think they are on a roll. They're trying to get back to the national championship. I think they want Georgia, kind of like a revenge factor. But they can't overlook TCU. TCU is those guys are hungry. I mean, I talk about Garrett Riley and Sonny Dykes. I mean, the turnaround he's made from year one to year two, he's got a lot of Texas boys, the guys that are hungry, kind of underrated, that just fit their scheme. The air raid offense, I mean, they know how to do it, spread them and gun them, and it's going to be interesting. It is going to be interesting. So, that college football play, the Georgia Ohio State game, I think Georgia's going to win, but it could easily go either way. And Michigan TCU, I think Michigan pulls it out, but TCU is an underrated team, so I think Michigan, Georgia kind of play, and I don't know, but it's going to be an interesting college football playoffs. I wanted to discuss that. I want to get y'all's thought as well. Let's get to the comments. Stevenson Hicks says, Linda P says, money talks, BS walks. Offer Glenn enough, he'll come. I'm with you, Linda P. Stephen Hicks says, roll tide, Bama Nation, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's. Hey, K-State, we just beat the hell out of you. Rammer, Jammer, Yellow Hammer, give them hell, Alabama. I want to be singing that after the game on New Year's Eve. Let's see. 6-0 says, if Ohio State shows up and play, Georgia will have a tough game on his hands. I mean, I totally agree. I mean, that game is, if I'm Georgia, I'm like, man, you should have gave us TCU, not Ohio State. That is a tough matchup. I think with Marvin Harrison, CJ Stroud, they got a decent running game. Ohio State kind of playing in big games. You look at Georgia's, they rolled in the SEC championship, but LSU came back. They put up 30 points with a backup quarterback, Nussmeier. I mean, that game could easily be, I know it's in Atlanta, Peach Bowl, so it's probably going to be a lot more Georgia fans, but if it's a lot of Buckeye fans there, watch out. That game could be kind of tricky. So that's just my 2 cents on the college football playoff. Let's get back to the student section. Great comments. What are your thoughts on Holloman Wingers? What do we need to get Alabama receivers back on track? And do you blame the lack of wide receiver play on him? I mean, you could. I think Holloman Wiggins is a great positioning coach. I mean, this guy's, to me, is top 2 I say top 3 position coach. I mean, you look at that run LSU had with their receivers, Jefferson, Jamar Chase, the list goes on. And Alabama was right there with Waddle, Judy, Devontae, Ruggs. I mean, we're right there. So I do think Holloman Wiggins is a good position because I think he's an excellent recruiter. But I don't blame receivers lack of receiver play on him. I mean, it could be. You could put some of the blame on the receivers because I do think they need to be more consistent. But I think we weren't playing the guys that were consistent. As much as I love Holden, I think you could have played an Isaiah Bond, a Kobe Prentice, or Kendrick Law, and they make all those catches. I mean, you look at Kendrick Law in the Iron Bowl, it was like 3rd and 19, and we converted. Like, where was this all year? So I think those young guys, we got to get back to playing the best guys. And, I think Coach Wiggins, he was trying to play the guys who were kind of, doing their best or whatnot, but not doing their best on the field, and they're consistently having drop passes. And that does fall on the coach or whatnot. But, I think we do got to get back to playing just the best guys. And I think the younger guys are hungrier. The freshman Bond, Prentice, Law, Shaz Preston, play those guys. I mean, I'm interested to see those guys ball out in this bowl game. So, yes, let's see. James Knox says, the only team that can beat Georgia is in T-Town. True point. And I live in Georgia and North Georgia, and I was I've been repping my Alabama gear regardless, 24/7, roll tide roll. This is what we do. And I walk in the gas station, this is this older gentleman, and he's like, man, Alabama should have been in the playoffs. And he's a Georgia. He's like, I'm a Georgia fan. And whenever I think of Alabama, he said this Alabama is the one team I do not want to have to play. And he's a Georgia fan, admitting that they don't want to have to play Alabama, and admitting Alabama is still one of the top 4 teams in the college football, And so for to hear that from a Georgia fan, to your point, James Knox, the team that could beat Georgia is in T-Town, but shoulda, coulda, woulda. We should have beat LSU. We could have had a different conversation, but you live and you learn. Let's see. Let's get to the let's see. Linda P says, I really think the Buckeyes are going to win. Listen, I told you that is a tricky game. The more I've been thinking about it, I'm like, man, that game could be kind of tricky. So seeing a lot of Buckeyes could win. Me too, Linda. Stroud is way better than Bennett. I agree. Yeah, I think Stroud is good, but Stroud hadn't gone up against his defense. He's about to play against Georgia. But I do think he matches up well. You look at Kellen Ringo, he'll probably go first-round corner. Going to be matched up with Marvin Harrison Jr., and I think past couple of games, Marvin Harrison Jr., especially that Michigan game, did not have the best game. So I think they're going to try to come out offensively and kind of, make some noise with CJ Stroud and them versus that defense. And if they could kind of jump on Georgia early or kind of keep it close, or they jump on Georgia early and kind of put up points and force Georgia to throw the ball, Georgia could be in a predicament, a weird predicament in that situation. So William Brown says, hey, Matt, when can we see Miss Caddell? Miss Caddell, my wife Laura's in the comments all the time. Rolling with the time. Let's see. Georgia will have to handle JT Tuimoloau. I think he's going to hand Georgia some scary moments. Yeah, like I said, that game is interesting. I think that game matches up better than what I thought they would, because I'm looking at it now in my head. I'm like, wow, Ohio State, they played in big games and they match up pretty better than a lot of teams do on paper. I mean, you got a top 5 CJ Stroud, you got a top receiver, Marvin Harrison, you got talent on defense, Tuimoloau. I mean, this game can get pretty interesting. So, like I said, I'm torn. I do think Georgia's going to beat Ohio State, but I don't know. I'm closer. I'm becoming 50-50 when it comes to that game. So, but yeah, that is football university. So we covered everything that I want to talk to. Thanks to the awesome student section. I mean, Linda P, 6-0, William Bryant, Stephen Hicks, Rise Up, Roll Tide, Nick Saban Jr. Listen, guys, keep tuning in to Football University. Listen, this show is for all the football heads, all the people that love football. We cover NFL, college. We cover it all at Football University. Next Sunday is Christmas. Everybody, holiday season. Enjoy your family. Have a Merry Christmas. Monday, we will be back on next Monday. Tune in to Football University. We'll talk about it, a good football playoff weekends. But in the meantime, have a happy holidays. Enjoy your holidays. Roll Tide. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Again, this has been another edition of Football University with Matt Caddell. Merry Christmas. I will see you all next Monday. Have a happy holidays. Be safe. And let's be thankful for all that we are blessed with. I'm your host, Matt Caddell. Have a Merry Christmas and Roll Tide Roll.